Hello there, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here with more career advice and job interviewing tips for you. And as a quick reminder, if you enjoy our podcast, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes. And on today's podcast, a tip around what to do if your boss asks you whether or not you're looking for a job. You know, a lot of you have had that happen to you. And if you haven't, you probably will at some point in your career. They walk up to you and they go, "Hey, Johnny, hey, listen, are you looking for another job?" Here's why they're asking you. Either A, they saw your resume online somewhere, or somebody on the human resource department saw your resume online somewhere, okay? Or B, you interviewed or you talked to somebody about a job that they know. Okay, it got back to them, okay, at the coffee shop or whatever. They heard through the grapevine that you were talking to somebody else about a job. So usually it's one of those two things. Or maybe, I guess, the third reason is maybe they're just paranoid, okay? I don't know. But something triggered them to ask you whether or not you were looking for another job. When that happens, I think a lot of people struggle at how to answer that, right? You're wondering if you are interviewing, and in fact, if you've been asked the question, the reality is you probably were interviewing somehow, or you had your resume up, or your LinkedIn profile looks obvious that you're looking for a job. So you probably were active in a job search in some way if somebody asked you the question. So for this podcast, I'm going to give you advice around how to answer it when in fact you were looking for another job, okay? So here's what I would do, okay? Your boss says, "Hey, Johnny, were you looking for another job?" I would look at him and say, "Well, Bob, I don't know. Are you offering me a job for life? Are you giving me a contract for life? Because if you are, then I would never look for another job. But I'm assuming this job is not for life, and you can't promise me I'm going to have a job here for life. So, yeah, I mean, I always keep my options open if that's what you're asking me. But hey, I love my job here. I enjoy working with you. I don't want to go anywhere, but are my options always open? And if somebody calls me, do I have a conversation with them? Yeah, sure. I always keep my options open because, I want to be prepared if something were to happen, or, the company went under, or, you left or whatever. I want to be prepared. So yes, my options are always open." That's how I would answer the question, in some way like that, right? And by the way, let me repeat kind of the question you throw back their way when they ask you, okay? They're saying, "Hey, are you looking for another job?" You should pitch back a question and say, "Well, can I ask you a question first? Do I have a job here for life?" And just let that sink in. Toss that one over the fence and watch your boss's eyes get a little bigger, okay? Because that's fair, right? I mean, think about it. They're kind of putting you on the spot, so to speak, by asking you if you're looking for another job. Well, that's not really fair, right? Unless they're promising you a lifelong contract and 100% job security for life, of course, you're always keeping your options open. I mean, you have to, right? You got to protect yourself. Everybody should protect themselves because there are no guarantees. Anyway, that's probably how I would answer it. Now, if they push you on it, or they say, "Well, listen, I talked to Mary the other day at the coffee shop, and she told me that you applied at a company and they recognized your name." If they get that specific, I think that's when you just say, "Hey, look, listen, here's the deal. Do I make sure that my resume and my profile is always up to date with my accomplishments?" Yes, of course I do, okay? If you heard that I was interviewing for a job, trust me, it's not because I want to leave here or because I'm unhappy. I am simply exploring opportunities and making sure I understand what my options are in case something were to happen. If I decide to leave my job, you'll be the first one to know, Bob, because I'll let you, we'll have a conversation. But for right now, I'm totally fine. That's how I would answer it. I would just continue to reinforce the fact that you are happy in the job you're in. Okay. You're not planning on going anywhere, but of course you're always keeping your options open. I really think that's the best way to go about answering the question. Now, some people would listen to this podcast and say, "Well, you should just tell your boss, that's a private matter, and what you do on your personal time is not any of his business, etc." Yeah, You can answer it that way if you want to, and you can just shut them down and not respond at all. I just don't think that's best, because then you're going to give it away. All right, they're going to know that yes, you're thinking about leaving. So you might as well just kind of have the conversation with them. I think that's best. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. We truly hope you find our material helpful and entertaining. And in the spirit of giving back, Riderflex donates half of all proceeds gained from this podcast to the Volunteers of America and their efforts to support veterans with employment services. While our podcast can be heard across most platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and SoundCloud, you can become a supporter of this podcast by visiting our show on the platform Anchor FM. That's anchor.fm/Riderflex. You can send us your questions or suggested topics for future episodes to the email address podcast@riderflex.com, or drop us a voicemail at 888-964-5876, extension 710. Visit riderflex.com to learn more about us. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and have a great day.